So the thumbnail to this video is 4 very elite level Hall of Famers, well known boxing superstars: Oscar De La Hoya, Bernard Hopkins, Floyd Mayweather, Ricky Hatton. Now, Bernard Hopkins, quite possibly maybe up there with Hagler for the greatest middleweight ever. Floyd Mayweather, quite possibly the greatest fighter to ever put a pair of gloves on. Ricky Hatton, the most adored fighter in British history. Yes, Frank Bruno was liked. People like Henry Wharton, but Ricky Hatton, it was almost like Old Man Court. And adored, absolutely. Take it from me, for someone who's writing his nemesis book this year, Junior Witter. Who's the other one? Oscar De La Hoya, a man who, look at him, could make someone 100% heterosexual doubt his sexuality. Golden boy, had it all. And these are 4 legends in the game. But the reason being to this video is, so they've all tried their hands at promotion. Oscar De La Hoya, he's really made it. Ricky Hatton's, I don't think he's kind of died away. Bernard Hopkins, you don't really hear much of him. And Mayweather's Mayweather. But the first fighter to ever, these days, Eddie Hearn, I think, had 8 amateur contests. Frank Warren never boxed. Ben Shalom, I'm not sure about that, but Barry Hearns, Barney Eastwoods, Jack Solomons, Harry Levine's. I can't think of anyone other than these. Certainly from a British world, who before they were outside the ropes, they were inside the ropes. And the very, very first one, certainly in my mind, I personally think so, was Mickey Duff, Whitechapel's Mickey Duff. And by his own admission, I think he actually said, I wouldn't have booked me. I think he had actually 69 professional fights by the age of 20, which is quite incredible. 10 pro at 15, had 123 amateur fights. But he knew, he was not going to set the world alight inside a boxing ring. And, he was a hustler. He grew up Spitalfields, casinos and all this. He had the gift of the gab, basically. Learned his trade along Brick Lane. And I put a post on last night on his Facebook page. He arguably, well, I think it's safe to say, from being a poor Polish immigrant grown up in the East End, became certainly the biggest, most powerful figure in Europe. And Mickey Duff's prime, I've found boxing posters with his name on from 1950. So what's now, born 1929, 21, could you imagine that? And but certainly from, he was really in the 60s, he was on the up. He was a guy, he was a somebody. But from a guy, from someone who's really thoroughly, obsessively, really went over his life for the last 15, 16 months. I think Mickey Duff at his most powerful was probably 75 to about 83. And I don't think anyone, obviously Don King in America, but certainly anybody in Europe, I don't think anyone was as influential as Duff. And I think there's a few other fighters that have tried it. Audley Harrison, he tried it actually when he was boxing. Um, yeah, David Hay, I think he has tried it as well. But the very, very first, certainly from these British shores, was Mickey Duff. And yeah, a lot of people. I think I know so because a lot of the people have told me. Jim Watt, for instance, he said, you only had to look at his nose, and I think it was another fighter as well said obviously because he boxed, he had a pugilistic face, shall we say. He was. You didn't have to read the small print to see what Mickey Duff was about, but he understood fighters because he'd been one himself. You know, didn't get anywhere near any kind of title level, but to what did I say? 123 amateur fights, 69 professional. That's literally nearly 200 fights, and yeah, he understood fighters, and he was all about the fighters. There's a lot of people. The media will portray him as some kind of bricktop. And listen, I've just interviewed uh, there's 50 chapters in this book from 50 people, boxing faces. But I probably spoke to something in all, must be over 70. And there's a lot of people who uh, have only just got absolute nothing but admiration and love. And, the media will have absolutely bashed him for a number of years. But yeah, as I said, look at the thumbnail. Superstars of world boxing, um, all made the name in the squared circle, um, and been very successful on the outside, on the outskirts, looking at the boxing ring. I'm sure they've made millions, but Mickey Duff, aka Monic Prager, was the very first promoter who'd had a bit of a, certainly not an what's that word? Illustrious, you know what I mean? But yeah, by all means, was he? Was he? Marvin Hagler said something years ago. I think someone was describing him. If you cut Marvin Hagler's head open, you'd find a boxing glove. Well, Mickey Duff, he lived and breathed the sport, and I think, well, I know so, and that was why he struggled when he retired at 70, because all he'd known was pugilism, the noble art of boxing, hit and not be hit, and he'd done that from oh, uh, best part of 60 years. So then all of a sudden he retires. He keeps his office open for a year, um, and then that's it. He goes from being Mickey Duff, international boxing icon, to you know having a quiet life, and that's what Mickey Duff wasn't about. I know I've read so many things over the last. Uh, he's always fascinated me, so I've always known who he was and kind of studied boxing for probably the best 30 years. But he spoke about retiring to Israel, and but he could never leave the glamour and the glitz and the busy world of London, and and obviously for it to walk away from boxing, it was it was he struggled for quite a long time, but yeah, as I said, maybe someone can enlighten me. I know Harry Levine got his nose broke in an amateur boxing gym, and I think Jack Solomons was a big boxing fan. But certainly, to my knowledge, certainly in Britain, maybe even the world, um, and if it's not the world, then at least it's no one who hit the heights that Mickey Duff did. So Mickey Duff really was the first. Yes, these four people in the picture of the Hall of Famers, albeit Mickey Duff was a Hall of Famer as well, but for outside the boxing ring. But yeah, Mickey Duff, what a guy. Oh, wish I'd have met him. If it had been anyone in world boxing who I could have met, it would have been him. I did join the army when I was young, and I used to go drinking in Wardour Street. O'Neill's Irish Bar, still there now. And this was like 98, 99. And it was literally a stone throw away from his office. And yeah, I wish I could have went and knocked on his door. So saying that, he might have told me to sod off. I'm sure many people watching this will agree that he could have been what's the word? He could be rather cantankerous at times. But yeah, what a guy, what a legend, and Mickey Duff, the most significant and the first. I defy anyone to tell me there was anyone who was a boxer and then a promoter to such a high standard that Monic Prager was. Let us know your thoughts below.